like that, okay? And then we'll jump right in the games after that. So stick around. You're going to get the live deck tech. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the Goon Squad. My name's Jody motherfucking Keith, and I'm here with the deck tech of a deck I've been playing for a couple months now that I refer to as Jeskai Queller. The deck is a Jeskai control deck for the modern format. I started 9-0 with it, Grand Prix Las Vegas. I really like what's going on in the deck. Personally, as a Magic player, I love the card Cryptic Command. It's one of my favorite Magic cards. It's really hard to die when you have 4 mana and a Cryptic Command in your hand. If you do, you should wonder why that happened. But anyway, to start you off with the deck, we got 24 lands. It's not the top heavy, it's not the big Jeskai or blue-white X control decks that you're normally accustomed to seeing in Modern. It lowers its curve mainly for this card here, Spell Queller, which is a namesake now, Jeskai Queller. That's what I like to call it. So, you know, you don't see the big stuff like a Johnny Vengeance or Nahiri, or you don't see the bigger things like Sphinx's Revelation or Elspeth, you know, because we try and go a little bit lower to the ground. Modern's pretty fast, and this is pretty much where it's at. Let me move this Logic Knot into the picture so you can understand the picture a little better. Now, the deck started as a deck, I found the list as a top 8 list in Kyoto, Japan. And the original list had a bunch of 4-ofs. So like this Mana Leak was a 4th Logic Knot, this V-Click was a 4th Electrolyze, and it was in the board, the 2nd V-Click. And it was all 4-ofs and 24 lands, and it looked beautiful. And I guess the idea behind playing so many of, you know, redundant copies of the same cards is because A, you get to see them, B, your hand becomes very Inquisition proof. Like if you get Inquisition, you got like a Snapcaster and a Queller and an Electrolyze, a Bolt, and a Path. Like all your cards are pretty much doing the same thing, or like counter spells and removal, you know. So like your hand's pretty similar, so they can't really pick apart your strategy because all your cards are pretty much doing the same thing. And the reason I really picked up on this deck, plays all the cards that I really like to play. I love Cryptic Command, I love playing Eternal Command style decks, and more importantly, it has a clock as comparing it to most control decks. You know, your clock is very grindy. Maybe you kill them with Colonnade if you're just blue-white. Something big, you know, kill them with card advantage. The thing about it is, modern decks are really resilient, especially with the presence of a deck like Eldrazi Tron. At some point, you know, you're going to need to kill your opponent because they will overtake you in raw card power. So that's why I like the inclusion of the 4 Lightning Helixes. You have 4 bolts and previously 4 Electrolyzes, but now down to 3. With the V-Click here, and one of your counter spells, Spell Queller, instead of playing something like Spell Snare or something like that, is an actual clock. So you can, it takes a lot of weight off the back of Celestial Colonnade, which is good because now there's removal for this card and Fatal Push. So we can win more in more ways. So I picked up this deck whenever I first saw that at top 8 of the Grand Prix, and I immediately put it in a league on my stream, link down below. And in the league I started, I went 5-0. I jumped right into another one 5-0. And I was like, wow, this deck is hot. You know, and then I 5-0'd another league. And then up until that point, I was playing Living-End, and I was trying to decide on a new Living-End list with all the new creatures, and I knew there would be more hate for the deck, so I was really happy with the performance of this deck and easily slotted into it. So what I ended up doing, I ended up playing this at a local event, and I think I might have lost in top 4, or maybe I won, I don't remember. Oh yeah, I played it in an IQ in Pensacola. So I drove like 3 hours, lost to Elves round 1. I was hungover after going to a Journey concert on a Friday night. And then I won every round after that. And the deck was incredible. And one of the big cards, well, we'll get into each card in particular, but that's just pretty much the history of me with the deck. You know, this might not be your archetype, you know, this might not be the play style that you like to play. But there's a lot of cool tricks to it, a lot of redundancy, and it's really cool that you can win with your removal spells. So you might want to give it a try. But now I'll do the card for card breakdown. We have 24 lands. We have 4 blue-red fast lands. We play 8 total fetch lands, 4 Tarn, 4 Flooded Strand, which can get 4 shocks and 4 basics. So we have 1 of each shock except we have 2 Hallowed Fountains, and we have 1 of each basic except 2 islands, and then we have 4 Colonnade, which I like to refer to as the Airbus. So for removal, we're looking at 4 Path to Exile, 4 Lightning Bolt, 4 Lightning Helix, and 3 Electrolyze, with Snapcaster to get them all back, Serum to keep the flow right, and then for counter spells, we're looking at Spell Queller, the namesake, and 4 Cryptic Commands, I love this card, and Logic Knot. Now Logic Knot originally was a 4-of, and I looked at it and I was like, you know, I would see these lists pop up and there would be 4 Logic Knots, and it never really made much sense to me. And then I realized that, you know, a lot of times you don't need a Mana Leak on 2, you just need a counter unless they pay 1. And then later in the game you need more than 3. The double blue comes up sometimes that it's trouble, but when you're already trying to manage Cryptic Command, it really isn't that big of a deal. It only comes up like if you want to Snapcaster it back, it's easier to snap Mana Leak, but then if your mana doesn't look like Cryptic Mana anyway, then you're going to have a problem. So you're already looking to achieve triple blue by turn 4 anyway for Cryptic Command. So it's usually not a problem if you have to snap back the Logic Knot. Also, graveyard removal kind of attacks this deck a little bit, but there's not much main deck. And then post board, we move into some non-graveyard forms of card advantage. And by that I mean Jace Beleren. Jace B, cannot say, I mean, I've seen a lot of people pick this deck up. There's some other players, Kevin Jones and Mahandy, and they pick it up and they play it, and the first thing they do, cut Jace Beleren. And it's like, come on now. Come on now. Jace B, he's an OG from back in the game. Look, he's a hood rat from the OG days. Look at him. First Planeswalker. I mean, come on. Look at him. He's like ready to go. But anyway, I'll tell you exactly how functionally this card is awesome, is that like your opponent plays a Liliana the Veil, they plus it. They're trying to grind you down because you're a control deck. You're like Jace B, draw a card. So you can keep cards in your hand in the face of a Liliana. You also have a lot of cheap removal in Path to Exile, Lightning Bolt, and Lightning Helix, as well as the Logic Knot is a 2-mana counterspell. So usually they can't get a board down underneath the Jace, and then the Jace comes down and draws a card. Then they play stuff to kill after, to try and kill the Jace after, and then you just remove it. And the next thing you know, you're running this Jace really hard on them. Now, originally the deck list played like 3 Grim Lavamancers and 4 Spreading Seas, but I've been seeing a lot less Tron lately, and Spreading Seas doesn't really help. It helps the matchup, but the thing about it is the matchup's still really bad. Both varieties of Tron, because your clock really isn't that fast to pressure them. So like, yeah, I mean, there's a good chance that I could probably cut these Spreading Seas from the deck, maybe play something different, but I like to have a couple just in case. Also, it's a sorcery speed card, so it doesn't really match what the rest of the deck is trying to do. So I never really liked it. So I eventually cut it down to 3 for Grand Prix Vegas, and then I'm trying 2 online now. What I ended up cutting the Grim Lavamancers for, I went for the Anger of the Gods, mostly because I was having a little trouble with the Kitchen Finks decks. Like, you know, when they come with multiple Kitchen Finks, it's a little hard to keep up, especially when you have the Path and puts them right in the Cryptic Command mana. Not Cryptic Command, Collected Company mana. So, you know, I moved it down to the Anger of the Gods. I always played 1 Wear and Tear. You know, it's just, you got to play some kind of disenchant type effect, and this is the best for our color combinations. I found that I didn't play any Stony Silence before, but then I lost the 2 Affinities day 2 of Vegas, so this has slowly crept its way into the sideboard as additional hate for that matchup. We always had the 2 Ceremonious Rejection, great card. I've thought about playing up to 3. We used to have the second V-Click here, but we moved it to the main to free up a sideboard spot because I wanted some graveyard hate. I did a previous, and if you look in a previous video, I did a league. I went 4-1 and I lost the Dredge, so I was looking for some graveyard hate. And at the Grand Prix, a lot of people suggested, you know, play Rest in Peace, but that shuts off our Logic Knot and our Snapcaster. Then I play Relic, and I'm like, that's a little slow, and it has the same problems as Rest in Peace. Then I'm like, do we have some one-sided? And I was like, maybe Wheel and Sun and Moon. No, and what I hate usually, and a lot of people don't think about this when they play Magic, but the, you know, the hate cards, sometimes they don't mesh well with your game plan. And like, people will keep weak hands with sideboard cards, thinking that they're going to win off the back of the sideboard card. And I just really want something that's more functional. So I settled on Jotun Grunt. This deck, one thing I like about this version of Jeskai is that when in doubt, you can burn them out. So this kind of backs up that game plan a little more. And I really wanted some tests for Jotun Grunt because he seemed really good in that match. I've yet to draw him. But whenever you play him, you know, if you don't know what this card does, it's 2 mana 4/4, Cumulative Upkeep, which is a throwback from an older day of Magic. Put 2 cards from a single graveyard on the bottom of their owner's library. So that means the first turn that he's out, on your next upkeep, you tuck 2 of their cards, and then next turn you tuck 4 of them. And the thing about it is, you can, don't forget, you can tuck 2 of theirs and 2 of yours to keep them alive. But if you ever get 4 to 8 damage out of this thing, like, you're probably just going to burn him out. You know, he's also really good with Cryptic Command, and the whole idea came from my previous experience with Eternal Command decks. Eternal Command is the variety of deck with Eternal Witness and Cryptic Command with like Tarmogoyf underneath, So you would Tarmogoyf, and then you would start looping Cryptic Commands with Snapcaster and Eternal Witness, preferably having either Vial to Vial them in. And then you would... The Dredge matches I never wanted the Graveyard Hate for, because I would get a clock down, and then I would Cryptic them out, because they're pretty soft to Cryptic Command. You know, and then I would Cryptic them out and kill them with Tarmogoyf or whatever. Because if you fog them, you know, it's going to be hard for them to kill you with Conflagrate. So that's what I ended up doing. And after playing this deck, I figured I didn't need much. But then I slowly turned the Grim Lavamancer's into Angers for the additional Dredge Hate, as well as adding the 2 Jotun Grunts, which do see play in other matches. Every match I play, I look for something. It's really hard to board them in against any deck with the Delve creatures, because they can eat their graveyard, and then, you know, also he's smaller than all the Delve creatures. So there's not too many matchups you can board him in. I like it in the mirrors. I like it in blue-white control mirrors, because usually your opponent will board low in the path, so they'll have to use 2 bolts or something to kill him, and he might be trouble to deal with, especially as a cheap threat later in the game when you're trying to kill him with combat damage. I also added a Gideon in the Trials. I wanted some more hate for Ad Nauseam, as well as this just being good against like Death Shadow. Just a 3-mana Planeswalker generating value. You want to get it down on 3, then protect it on 4 with Cryptic. If you ever untap with a 3-mana Planeswalker, it's really hard for them to beat you. So, we went over this. We have a couple more counter spells to make our counter spell suite a little better. If they're attacking our graveyard, we'd rather have like Negate, Dispel, harder counters. Also, just harder counters in general, more counters, if that's what we're looking for. So we added some extra hate to the sideboard, because I already like the way the deck flows in general, so I didn't really like that we were boarding in looser cards like Grim Lavamancer, you know, as maybe an increased bolt removal type effects, you know. So then I ended up added some more hate cards. So I'm really liking the way the deck's going. I didn't finish too well in Vegas because, like I said, I lost the 2 Affinity decks, but I really think the deck is very well positioned in the format. There's less and less Tron decks, especially natural Tron decks. You can still beat the Eldrazi Trons. They don't play that many Cavern of Souls, so Cryptic Command is still great. And you could also, don't forget that with Spell Queller, you can exile creatures that are cast off of Cavern of Souls. So, you know, and then you can burn them out up top. You know, you're not completely blown out by Chalice. You get a couple flyers. They don't defend flyers well. It's pretty good. I mean, I think the worst Eldrazi matchup is probably Bant Eldrazi, considering we don't play any kind of Wrath effect. So I think it's pretty well positioned for now, but that's likely to change. But for the time being, I really like where the deck's at. And of course, you know, you can always change cards as you see. I told you how the deck evolved. You know, that's the beauty of Modern. You know, you get a hold of what your metagame looks like, and you can easily trade in cards to make your matchups better. You know, so it's pretty well rounded. And you know, if you like the deck, got any questions about the deck, just drop your comments down below. Make sure to subscribe and check us out over at the Twitch. You know, come hang out with the Goon Squad. I stream 3 nights a week. And, you know, if you want to see some gameplay before I upload any videos on it. Alright, I hope y'all enjoyed this deck tech. And, you know, stick around for the next one. Oh, man, I miss it, Bryce.